Hi there, my name's Mark, and welcome to Mark's World. Today I'm going to talk about Hargreaves Lansdown versus Trading 212. So if you like this content, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons. That would be really helpful. Thank you. So let's get on with it. So we're logged into Hargreaves Lansdown. So this is what the main page looks like. Personally, I quite like the layout of Hargreaves Lansdown. It's quite a traditional web page interface, and you can cover both your stocks and shares ISA, your SIP, and if you're retired, your drawdown accounts through this interface. One other thing I like about this interface is you can link in family members. So if you're married and you've got a wife, or you have a partner, you can link in your partner, or if you have children, you can link in the children to the account. So when you go into the main interface, you can see how much you've got in your ISA, how much cash is available. You can top up if you want. You can see how much is in your SIP, how much cash you've got, etc. So quite a nice clean interface. So I quite like Hargreaves Lansdown. So this is what the main stocks and shares ISA web page looks like. It's pretty much the same for the SIP web page. Again, I like the way Hargreaves Lansdown lays everything out. There's no clutter. It's a nice clean interface, so you can see how much you've got invested in your stocks or ETFs or whatever, and it shows how much cash you've got free. It has a recommended minimum balance. In this case, £10. That's just to allow for charges, so that you don't run negative with your cash balance. So you can quite clearly see what you're invested in with stocks. So you can see I like to use ETFs. So I'm invested in India, Nasdaq. The problem with Hargreaves Lansdown is it doesn't give you much interest on your cash, unlike Trading 212. So that's a bit of a negative for Hargreaves Lansdown. It's something like 3.something%. It's not much. So what I tend to do is I tend to stash my cash in something called the Elixir Smart Overnight Return, which gives you about 5.2% return at the moment. So I like investing, as I say, in ETFs. So we've got semiconductors, world, S&P 500s. We've got AI. So with Hargreaves Lansdown, because the charges are quite high, I tend to just stick to things like ETFs. I don't tend to buy stocks and shares. Costs are too high. But overall, I like the interface for Hargreaves Lansdown. So that's a positive. This is one of the big negatives about Hargreaves Lansdown. They're pretty expensive compared to a lot of other platforms these days. So for investing in stocks and shares ISA, the charge is 0.45% up to 250,000, and from 250,000 to 1 million, it's a charge of 0.25% per year. From 1 million to 2 million, it's 0.1%, and then there's no charge if you're lucky enough to have over £2 million. The other investments, things like ETFs, which I tend to use, as I said before, there's a 0.45% charge, but for an ISA, it's capped at £45 a year. So actually, for Hargreaves Lansdown, when you start investing more money, the charges aren't too bad because it's capped. So people always assume Hargreaves Lansdown is very expensive, but it is capped above a certain amount. Likewise, for Hargreaves Lansdown, the charges are 0.45% for your SIP, up to 250,000. From 250,000 to 1 million, it's 0.25% charge. From 1 million to 2 million, 0.1% charge. And over 2 million, no charge. But again, what I quite like about Hargreaves Lansdown is if you stick to ETFs, which you can buy and sell like stocks, the 0.45% charge is capped to £200. So again, if you have quite a lot in your SIP and you're just having things like ETFs, this cap isn't too bad. So that's £200 a year. But for smaller amounts, Hargreaves Lansdown's not very competitive. It's quite expensive. One really positive thing about Hargreaves Lansdown, and personally I find this very important now that I'm retired and I have a pension as well as an ISA and drawdown account, is their customer support is really good. You can actually pick the phone up, speak to someone in Bristol, and speak to a real person. And I think that's a really important plus for Hargreaves Lansdown. Whereas Trading 212 doesn't have a person you speak to on the phone. So that's a positive for Hargreaves Lansdown. Negative, charges very high. Now let's get on to Trading 212. Here's the main page you go into. It shows how much you've got invested in your portfolio, how much you've got in total. The UI is more modern than HL, but personally, initially I found it a bit more confusing to use. But I know a lot of people would prefer this, particularly if they're using an app. It's probably easier to use if you're using an app on a mobile phone. But from a web interface point of view, overall, I sort of prefer Hargreaves Lansdown, the more traditional web interface. But I'm getting more used to Trading 212. I've only more recently started using Trading 212, so I'm starting to like the UI a bit more. Still prefer Hargreaves Lansdown overall, but the UI is not too bad. One thing I find a little bit awkward with Trading 212 is this scroll bar you see in the middle. It's quite small and it's a bit difficult to scroll up and down using a standard web interface. Again, maybe if you're using a mobile phone, it's a lot easier to use. But it seems like they've sort of compromised a bit between the web interface, standard web interface, versus an app interface. However, I do quite like the way you can click on your investments. So, for instance, in this case here, if you click on Fanek Semiconductor, you can see the graph quite easily, and you can just scroll up and down through your investments. So that bit I quite like. So overall, UI quite nice, but a bit fiddly with that scroll bar. Looking at Trading 212 charges and interests, this is where Trading 212 really has the advantage, and you can see the benefits of investing in a more modern platform. So a really nice benefit of Trading 212 is if you have cash in your account, you get 5.2%, which is pretty good per year. That's much better than what you'd get in the main bank. Also, the really nice thing is the trading commission is free, completely free, and the foreign exchange fee is really low, 0.15%. This is really a lot lower than Hargreaves Lansdown, because if you look at Hargreaves Lansdown, they've got an FX trading charge which is really high, 1% for the first 5,000, then it goes down to 0.75% for the next 5,000, then 0.5% for the next 10,000, and then over 20,000 is 0.25%. So this, for me, prevents me from buying and selling US stocks with Hargreaves Lansdown, which I think is a real negative. So if you want to buy and sell stock, particularly foreign stocks like US stocks, I would recommend Trading 212. The problem with Trading 212, though, is at the moment it's ISA only, whereas Hargreaves Lansdown has a SIP and ISA support. So if you've got a SIP, then you're out of luck with Trading 212 at the moment, although there are rumours that Trading 212 is coming out with a SIP later this year. A negative about Trading 212 is it's chat-only support, and you can't actually pick the phone up and speak with someone. So for me, that's quite a big negative. I actually really like speaking with people. So some people might say, well, it's worth paying a bit more with Hargreaves Lansdown to be able to speak with a real person. However, I do find the chat support's fairly good, so it's not a big negative. It's just a bit slower. So, which would I go for between Hargreaves Lansdown and Trading 212? For an ISA, I would definitely, I think, go for Trading 212 because the costs a lot less, the charges a lot less, particularly if I want to buy and sell US stocks, which I like to do. So Trading 212 wins hands down on that side. When it comes to the pension or a SIP, it's a bit, well, you can't do pensions with Trading 212, so Hargreaves Lansdown wins on pensions. So you might want to look elsewhere, see who else does SIPs at a lower cost. So I think Hargreaves Lansdown wins currently for SIPs, but I'll be interested when Trading 212 come out with a SIP. So hope that was useful for everyone to make up their mind which they prefer between Trading 212 and Hargreaves Lansdown. I know it's quite difficult weighing up all these different platforms, the pros and cons, but hope this helps you. And if you did find this video helpful, don't forget to press the like and subscribe button down below, because I can do with some likes and subscribes as I'm getting started at the moment. So thank you for watching, and speak again soon. Bye for now.